Okay. Hello everyone. Today I'm Deepanjali Gupta. Okay, so the topic of my presentation is role of soil testing for agricultural soil. So before start this topic, we should know that why soil is very important for us. So we all know that what soil and why it is important. As soil is one of the most important natural resources in which we are growing our crops. So why it is important? Because for every agricultural practice or for the every crop production, we need our soil because it is the only source of nutrient for our plants or for our crops. But nowadays, what happens? The quality and the health of our soil is gradually decreasing day by day. And there are many factors which is affecting it, and one of the main factor is that we are putting so much amount of um, fertilizers into the soil, and why without even knowing what the real status of our soil, the real nutrient status of our soil. Therefore the soil testing is very much important for the management prospectus, as it will help to maintain the soil fertility as well as let us know that what amount of particular nutrient we should need to put into our soil. So let's start our topic. So we know that soil is very much important for all of us, and the soil testing is the base for the management practices of our soil. Is doing the soil testing, the different soil, such that how much plants we need to put into our soil, and many even practices that we are doing unknowingly, which is degrading our soil. So why it is regularly we need to do the soil testing, because it will contribute to the sustainability of our soil and help us to grow and increase our productivity as well as enhance the fertility of our soil. So once its inherent capacity to increase, the fertility will increase, only then that will help us or help our farmers to grow the soil to a particular natural condition. It will be very much essential. Now we also should know, if we are saying to do this, how we can do it, like how we can know what is the initial status of our soil. So for know the initial status, very much and almost everyone should know is the soil test. And for the soil testing, the foremost important thing is to collect. So whenever farmers are collecting the soil sample for the soil testing, they're taking the soil. Hello.
Yes, Ms. Deepanjali, you got disconnected.
Okay. I'm so sorry for that, ma'am. And now I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible. You can share the screen. No, not yet.
Now,
It just says you started to share. Yeah, now it has come. You can
okay,
proceed.
okay. So, so it is very important to know the nutrient status of our soil, as we have discussed earlier. So, to know the nutrient status of our soil, it is very much important to do the soil testing. And for the soil testing, the foremost step is to collect the soil sample. But what happens whenever the farmer or anyone is taking the soil sample, they don't know that what is the correct way to take the soil sample. So they just took randomly the sample and put it into for the soil testing. But that is the wrong way. We should know that our soil is not the homogeneous; it is heterogeneous in the structure. So hence, it is the heterogeneous in the nature. So what happened? The amount of nutrients that is present into the soil, they are also not the uniform to our surface. So it is very much important that we should take the soil sample properly, at least from at least from at least the five plots, and we have mixed the sample so that we will get the exact amount of nutrient status of our soil, and we can do our management practices according to that only. So therefore we should take it in our mind that whenever we are taking any of our sample for the soil testing, that samples should be from different sites, because to maintain the homogeneous nature of our heterogeneous soil. Now, second is that why it is important to do the soil testing, and why we cannot put fertilizer randomly for all over the soil into one same amount. Because it is an experiment done, and we have seen that if we are applying fertilizer continuously, we can see that for the particular nutrient, like if you are applying the fertilizer, let it be for nitrogen or phosphorus, it will increase the availability for that particular nitrogen for sure. But when it comes to the other nutrients, let it be for the micronutrient, their deficiency will increase with increase in the fertilizer of the particular nitrogen, phosphorus, or the potassium. Like in this, we can see if we are putting the nitrogen fertilizer in an excess amount, the availability for the micronutrients like for molybdenum and zinc, it will increases, and hence every element is very much important for the nutrients of the plant. If the micronutrients is in less amount, therefore the plant will not showing that much good amount of yield. Hence, to maintain the micronutrient and macronutrient balance, it is also very important for the soil, for our soil. But nowadays, what happens? Just to increase the yield, the farmers are putting the NPK fertilizers in a great amount so that they will get the better yield. But what happened? They haven't considered it that if they are putting the NPK fertilizer, it will eventually lead to decrease. It will eventually lead to decrease in the micronutrient concentration. And for the better nutrient condition, or we can say for the better yield, every element, whether it will be macronutrient or it will be the micronutrient, we all need into an optimum amount. Therefore, it is very much important to do the soil testing. And after knowing the particular status, we will put the micronutrient as well into our soil. Now, second, here we can see that if we are putting the optimum amount of nutrient, what happened? We exactly don't know that how much fertilizer we need to put. So we are just giving the fertilizers to our soil. But whenever we are giving the imbalanced dose of fertilizer, there might be increase in the yield. There must be some increase in the yield for sure. But that increase will not be the optimum, or we can say the highest increase. But if we are putting a balanced amount of fertilizer, then it will show us the maximum amount of increase that the soil can do. We can say that we are increasing the inherent capacity of the soil while putting the balanced amount of fertilizer. But if we are not putting the balanced amount of fertilizer, like we can see here, if we are not putting the balanced amount of fertilizer, there will be increase in yield, but not that much as when we are putting the balanced amount of fertilizer. So here it is also very important that one of our main priority whenever we are growing crop, the one of the main priority is to increase the yield. But if you're not putting this right amount of fertilizers into our soil, we cannot increase our yield to the maximum. And to know this, the soil testing is the only better solution, because if we are not knowing that how much what is the balanced dose of a fertilizer for our soil, then how we are going to put the fertilizers. So it is very much important that before every cropping season, we should take the samples from our soil and do a soil testing before starting to our management practices. Now, soil testing is the very much important tool for the farmers, as we can see. But why it is also important, we can see here that whenever we are putting the fertilizers into our soil, what happens? Our soil is following the law of maximum. So, at the law of maxima, or we can say the law of optimum, according to that law, what happens? That law suggests that if we are putting a certain amount of fertilizer into our soil, our soil will only going to show the maximum yield until an optimum value. Once it will reach the optimum value, the further increase in the fertilizer does not going to influence the in its yield. It means that, let it be that our soil need only 4 gram of fertilizer, and at the 4 gram, it will showing the optimum optimum, or we can say the maximum yield. But if we are supplying the 6 gram of fertilizer, it will be a waste of fertilizer. Like the 2 gram fertilizer which we are applying over it, that is waste. Why? Because the maximum amount of yield that our crop can show, that will be at 4 gram only. So when we are applying 6 gram, it will be a cost. It will be a loss of our money as well, and also it will be the waste of our fertilizers. So here we can see that the crop yield could be increased only till it will get the optimum amount of fertilizer. When it will get the optimum amount of fertilizer, the more amount of fertilizer what we are adding into the soil doesn't influence the further yield of our crop. Now, here are some methods of the soil sample, or we can say here are some methods for the soil analysis. Like there are the pH, EC, organic carbon, available nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and for all the macronutrients. I can explain them in detail also if you want to know. But there are some general methods through which we are doing this lab analysis for our nutrient concentration, whether it will be the macronutrients, micronutrients, or also, and lime and gypsum. So what happened after knowing, this is very important, that we should know that what will be the interpretation of our results. So after knowing the amount of status of our soil, the amount of nutrient status of our soil, now we should know that what is the low concentration of the nutrients, what is the medium, and what is the high concentration of our nutrients. For likewise, that which nutrient will lie in the which part. Like for our nitrogen, the 280 and 560 is the range of our nutrients. So if after soil testing, our soil gives results which is less than 280, we will know that it is having the low amount of nitrogen. So we should need to apply more amount of fertilizer. Similarly, if our soil will get the more than 560 kg per hectare of nitrogen, then will get to know that our soil is already having so much amount of nitrogen, and there is no need to put excess amount of fertilizer or any amount of fertilizer into our soil. So so after knowing this interpretation chart, we will get to know that what is the current situation of our soil, and according to that current situation, how much more fertilizer we need to apply to our soil, so that we can maintain our soil nutrient availability, inherent capability. Also, we cannot destroy our soil structure as well as its fertility. Now, how should we recommend the fertilizer to our farmers? So it is very much important that we should know the interpretation of our chart. So once we will know the interpretation, we will get to know that how much is the nutrient status for particular part of our soil. So we'll get to know that let it be, for an example, that the recommended dose of a nitrogen is 51 to 100 kg per hectare. It will be calculated after on only knowing the current status of our soil, and it can only be possible after the soil testing. So the recommended dose, let it become 51 to 500 kg per hectare. So if your soil is it is low in having the nitrogen content. So now we know that if it is low, then we should increase the dose by 12.5 kg per hectare, or if it is high status, then we will decrease the dose by 12.5 kg per hectare. One very most important thing to understand and to know, that whether our soil is high in nutrient status, or we can say the medium in nutrient status, it doesn't mean that we should not apply fertilizer. At that time also, we should need to apply fertilizer, because after the uptake of particular nutrient into the soil, our soil again become deficient. So to maintain, or to protect our soil, to get deficient from our soil, we must need to apply the certain amount of fertilizer into our soil. Then it doesn't mean that if it is having the high percentage of nutrient into the soil, then it doesn't mean that we should not need to apply the particular fertilizer dose into our soil. So there are some recommendations through which we can see that how much amount we can increase or how much amount we can decrease according to the availability of the nutrient status into our soil. Now the similar is for the potassium and the phosphorus fertilizers as well, and you can see in this chart. Now, why there is need for the soil analysis and why it is very much important. Uh, the first and the foremost is like for maintaining the nutrient deficiencies by using by grow we are doing the intensive cultivation nowadays. We are knowing that to fulfill the needs of a demand, our agricultural practices should be will shift toward the intensive agricultural practices. And in intensive agricultural practices, we are just growing the crops without even giving the barren land to regenerate its native pool of the nutrients. So what happened at that time, the nutrients will get deficient from our soil. So to maintain the nutrient deficiencies from our soil, the soil analysis is very important. Why? Because once we know that what is the current status of our soil, we'll add that much amount of fertilizer or that much amount of organic residues into our soil. And after adding that much amount of organic residues, that will help them to reclaim their fertility, or we can say their own natural status of our nutrients. Second, the soil pH imbalances. Whenever we are applying the dose of fertilizer into our soil, those applying fertilizer usually decrease or lead to increase in the pH due to its nature. So once the pH or the pH will increase or decrease, we know that it is highly influence the nutrient content of our soil. Why? Let it be, if the soil become very acidic, then phosphorus, which is available in the pool, now it will be what it will get fixed into the aluminium or the iron with iron. So at that time, what happened, the available phosphorus is also not available to us, it will get fixed. Similar case for the potassium and any other many other nutrients. So if the pH is not balanced, our nutrients will be in the available form, because they will get fixed in the form. So it is very much important that when we are applying the fertilizers to our soil, we should know that what is the status of our soil pH. Once we know the soil pH status, it's a responsibility as well to know that whatever things we are applying to our soil, that will not going to influence its pH, because once the pH will influences, it will not going to provide the nutrients to the crop, and hence it will lead to decrease in the soil productivity and also the yield of the plant. Now, after discussing all this, we should know that what are the main benefits of the soil analysis. So, first of all, it is improve the crop yield, and we will see that how it will improve the crop yield. How that they are by adding the certain amount of fertilizers, it will help us to get the better results for our crop, and hence it will increase our yield. Second, it is by we will save the cost of the fertilizers to our farmers, because our farmers are just applying the fertilizers fertilizers in an excess amount without knowing the exact amount that how much they need to put. So they are over applying the fertilizers, and by over applying the fertilizer, for sure it will be the waste of money for them as well. It will degrade the soil health. So we can say that after the soil analysis, the farmers get profit in the farming as well as maintain or sustain the soil health. The third is the better soil management, because only by the soil analysis it could be possible that the soil management practices could be in a better way, or in a way that it will increase its soil health as well as the productivity, and hence all these factors will lead to increase the improve soil health. So we can say that the soil testing is one of the very most important step, and through this only we can further going to put our crops and increase the yield as well as without destroying the soil health and soil biota. And thus it is very much important, and it is showing that after doing the soil analysis, we are sustainably increasing the yield and improve our ecosystem as well as the soil biota and the soil biosphere. So now you can ask questions. Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Yes, you are audible, Miss Deepanjali. So you're done with it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So thank you for the detailed presentation. Now I'll take up some questions.
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Okay. So the first question is, as a new farmer, why is soil testing important for me to understand the condition of my agricultural soil?
Okay, ma'am. So, as a new farmer, so let me answer your question. That whenever we are doing the fertilizer practices, it is not like we are new to the farming. We all know that our soil is having some conserved amount of nutrients. Like our nutrients are not in the abundant amount. It is a conventional source of energy to us. So whenever there is a conventional energy, it means that there is certain amount of nutrients only that is present into the soil. And we are starting cropping system. What happened? Our crops at the starting when the land is free, we are not doing any agricultural practices at that land. That time its fertility is very high because there will be no uptake of nutrients from that particular part of the soil. So what happened initially, your soil will definitely will going to give us the best results. But later on, when you are trying to grow another crop season wise, another crop, what happened, because the first crop will already taken up so much amount of nutrients. Now for the other crop, it will be very difficult to take the nutrients. Now what you are doing, you're just applying the fertilizers into the soil. You're just doing the over application of the soil, if without knowing the exact status or exact fertility of your soil. Now there should be two things. One, hello ma'am.
Yeah, you're audible. Please go ahead.
Okay. So at that time, if you don't know the current status of your soil nutrients, what will happen? You're just applying the nutrients. So that nutrient, whatever the fertilizer, that may contain some acidic or some basic in nature. That could be basic or acidic in nature. So that will create the acidity in your soil. Let it be. It create acidity in your soil. So once the acidity will created into the soil, what happened? The amount of available nutrient is also get fixed into the soil, and hence it will not going to be available for your crop. So where you are applying the fertilizer, but that fertilizer is not available to your crop, then there will be no use of that fertilizer, right? It will be just a waste of money for it. And it is waste for money, as well as what happened, those fertilizer will do the complex formation into the soil, and they are forming a very complex structure into a soil, and helps degrade the soil aggregates. So once the soil aggregate structure will disturb, it will disturb the aeration as well as the permeability of water into the soil. And later on, not I can say that immediately, but later on gradually it will decrease your capacity of the soil, and hence it will not going to be available for your crop. So once only we know the current nutrient status of our soil, the current condition of our soil, that only then we should know that how we can manage our soil, so that not for today, but for several years, or we can say for the lifelong, we can maintain our soil, our particular land, and its fertility. So whenever we are going to grow crops into our soil, it will only give us benefits, as well as maintain its nutrients also. So that's why it is very much important. And for the new farmers, it should be, they should know that how much amount of nutrients they are putting, so that it will be an economical and sustainable way for them and for the ecosystem as well. um
Okay. So next question.
yes
What are
ma'am.
the key parameters or factors that soil testing helps to assess, and how can these information benefit my farming practices?
Ma'am, could you please repeat once
Yeah.
again?
Yeah,
Yeah,
one
sure.
second. What are the key parameters or factors that soil
Mhm.
testing helps to assess, and how can these information benefit my farming practices?
Okay, okay. So let us divide this question into two parts. So in the first part, let me discuss about that what are the key parameters for the soil testing is. So whenever we are doing the soil testing, the key parameter which I'm telling you is to know the nutrient status as well as the soil health. When I'm saying the nutrient status, it is about the particular nutrient into our soil, but it is not only need to know that the nutrient status. The second most important thing is to know the soil health. To know the soil health, it is the second most important thing is to know that how much amount of active part is there in your soil. And to know the active part, we will consider about the soil biota, or we can say soil biosphere, that is related to the soil microorganisms. So once we know that how much amount of microorganism in your into a soil, they will also going to increase the fertility. How? Because it is only the microorganisms or the soil biota that will lead to increase the unavailable form of nutrients into an available form, or that will the only microorganisms are the only source that will make the unavailable nutrients accessible to the to our available pool. So by knowing the soil, by doing the soil practices, or we can sorry soil testing, what we are doing actually, we will get to know about the soil nutrient status for sure, as well as the soil health. So if more the microorganism, it means that our soil is very fertile. It means whatever fertilizer we are putting into our soil, and from the native pool also, there will be more mineralization, and hence the more the mineralization, the more it will get available. So this is how it will help us to know. Eventually, once the soil health is good, or we can say the soil biota or the microorganism biosphere is good, it will lead to increase the nutrient status, because it is a nutrient, it is in the fixed form into the soil. These microorganisms will let us to increase the will do the mineralization and increase the pool. The soil testing, it is not only about the nutrient status. I said that it is about the nutrient status for sure, but it is also about the soil biota. So when we are doing the soil testing, we are taking the nutrient status, that what are the amount of NPK and other micronutrients that are present into the soil, what is the pH of our soil, what is the organic carbon status of the soil, as well as we will also consider what is the soil microbiomass into the soil, and how much respiration are they doing. Only after knowing and assessing all the parameters together, we will now get to know that, oh, this is our particular situation of our soil, and this is how we will need to manage our soils. So this is the first part of your question, that is that what is the key parameters to our soil testing. Now, after knowing this, the second part, coming to the second part of your question, which is like that how it is helpful to you. After knowing all of this, what happened if you are knowing that this much amount of nutrient is present into soil, and this is the amount of microbiomass that is in your soil. So what happened if you are applying the fertilizers into the soil, or anything into the soil? It could be the organic as well as the inorganic source of nutrients into the soil. So whenever you are applying those external fertilizers into your soil, what will happen? They will increase the nutrient status of your soil. But you should know, this is you should know that how much increase is there, and how much uptake is your crop is doing. So particular after doing the particular uptake, certain amount of nutrient is left into the soil. So that certain amount of nutrient will going to help to grow the further cropping. So if we are maintaining this, only this could be happen. Why? Because once the crop will be grown, it certain amount of uptake is there. But if we don't know the nutrient status of our soil, we are just applying the fertilizer, it will degrade its fertility later on. Why? Because later on that fertilizer will do and will create some hazardous effects to the soil, and this could be by complex formation, or by increase its acidity, or by doing the toxicity to the plants. So that's why it is very much important to know the soil to do the soil testing, and to know the current status of our soil nutrients. Am I clear to you, or do I need to explain it again?
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, okay, ma'am.
So, can you explain the process of soil testing and how can I get my soil tested?
For sure. Uh, Look, for the soil testing, the very much important first step is to collect the soil sample. And that soil sample which you are collecting, that should be very much that will be very much accurate. Why it is very much we need to take it very properly? Why? Because we know that our soil is not heterogeneous. It is very heterogeneous in nature. It is not homogeneous in nature. What does this heterogeneous means? That when we are taking the soil samples, and if we are taking the soil sample from five different plots, the nutrient status of our five different plots is totally different. Why? Because every from the every inch into an every inch, the soil will the amount of microorganisms, the climatic conditions, and every single thing will influence, and hence the rate of conversion of unavailable to available nutrients will also differ. Why the nutrient status is not same every part of our soil. So it is very much important for us to get to know that what is the nutrient status of our whole soil. So for that, the sample should be very much important, that we should take a correct amount of sample, or from a correct procedure. So for the good soil testing, first of all, is to take a soil sample from at least 5 to 7 different places, and we should mix that thoroughly. And after mixing, we should take this 500 gram of the sample for the soil testing. So after taking that sample, we are going to the soil testing laboratories, where we can where we can give our sample to the soil for the soil test experts. There you can tell them that which particular nutrients you want to know. But it is better for you to say that we just need to know the soil health. So after this, you said they will going to provide you the pH, EC, organic carbon, and NPK status of your soil. Why? Because majorly these nutrients are influencing the rate of other nutrients as well, and the amount of other nutrients that are present into the soil. So therefore, but it is also nowadays it is very much important, because in the previously there is only the deficiencies of the NPK, but nowadays we can see that there are the emerging deficiencies of the micronutrients as well as. So whenever you are giving your sample to any laboratory, you should say them that along with the major nutrients, we also need to know the micronutrient status of our soil, so that we can maintain the micronutrient as well as the macronutrient status of our soil. So whenever we are giving the sample to any
Miss
is it okay for
Deepanjali?
you?
Yeah, yeah. Your voice was breaking. No problem. Yeah. So, next question. How frequently should I conduct soil testing on my farm? And are there any specific times of the year that are more suitable for this?
Okay, okay, okay. So for the soil testing, it is suggested that after every season, we should do the soil testing. Why? Because the climatic influence on the soil is very, very, very much. Like whenever, if there will be the rainy season, it will be the summer season, or it will be the winter season. The amount of sunlight, or the vegetative parameters, like the rainfall, humidity, these all are influencing the particular nutrient status of our soil. Therefore, it should be by every season. It should be by the ending or the starting of every season. We should do the soil testing. The second is, if there is any particular season, if you are just shifting your agriculture practices, like nowadays you are growing the wheat crop, after that you are try for the legume crop. So if you are changing the agricultural practices, it is very much important that you should know what is the current status of your soil. So before starting the agricultural practices, it is important, and after every season, it is important. So these two are we usually consider that whenever we are doing the cropping, by every season we should do the soil testing, or if we are start growing any crop, we should do this testing procedure.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Next question. What are some common soil related problems or deficiencies that can be identified through soil testing? And how can I address them effectively?
Okay, okay. So the so ma'am, could you please repeat once again? It is little not clear to me. Hello. Um. Hello.
Yeah, okay.
Uh,
Sorry.
uh, yes,
What
yes,
are the
sure.
what are some common soil related problems or deficiencies that can be identified through soil testing, and how can I address them effectively?
Okay, ma'am. Uh, so any deficiencies that any deficiencies your soil is having can be identified through the soil testing. Soil testing is actually a method to know the deficiency status of the soil. So when we said what kind of deficiencies we can predict, like we can predict. Yeah, but we can predict only the available amount of nutrients that are present to our soil. Like we know that our soil is having the abundant amount of nutrients, but that abundancy is not available to us. Why? Because some is in the immobilized form, only some is the available form. Like they are why? Because they are in the fixed form. So to convert that fixed form, it is very much essential to us. But from the soil testing, we only got to know the available status of our soil. We didn't get to know about the status that is not available to our plant. So the deficiencies which you were saying, that what kind of deficiencies we can see, the deficiencies in the available pool, we can see available pool of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, any nutrients we can see, as well as we can also predict that is the microorganisms that are present in the soil, is they are capable to degrade or decompose the particular amount of biomass that are present or not. Why? Because only the amount of microorganism or what kind of microorganism that are present into the soil, that also going to influence the further mineralization of the unavailable nutrients into the soil. Hence it is also very much important to know that how what is the soil biomass, or we can say what is the soil active biomass, or the soil microorganism into the soil. So by knowing by the soil testing, we could predict the deficiency system of the nutrients that are present into the soil. There's nutrient could be micronutrients or the macronutrients, or as well as the primary and the secondary nutrients. Any nutrient we can identify. Also, we can identify the soil microorganisms that are present into the soil. But these all are we can predict on the available side. The non-available part of the soil we cannot predict by the soil testing till now. Now the second part of your question, that said that what measures you could do to do so for preventing the nutrient deficiencies into the soil, or to prevent the imbalance of the pH into the soil. You can do the further management practices. Like sometimes it is not only much important that you should do the fertilizer dose. It is important to put the fertilizer, but that fertilizer should be in the optimum amount. Why? Because if you are increasing the dose of fertilizer, for sure it will degrade the fertility of the soil, and for sure eventually it will not give you that much amount of yield. So the first is if you are saying what measures you should do, you should use the only recommended dose of fertilizer. You should not increase the dose of fertilizer to your soil, as well not decrease the dose of fertilizer. Why? If you will decrease the dose of fertilizer, the availability of the nutrients will decrease, and hence the crop will not showing the better responses. So same is case if you are increasing the dose. What happen if you are increasing the dose? Thus your soil will so showing the toxicity to that particular symptoms. Second, by applying the overlying of the fertilizers, they will do the pH imbalance. If the pH of the soil will disturb, there could be no crop that can grow. Why? Because certain crops are resistant to acidity, and certain are resistant to the alkalinity. So there should be there we should know that what kind of crop we should need to grow, and how we should maintain that the pH according to our those crops. So to take the measures, first is to apply to take the measures to prevent for the soil testing nutrient deficiencies, is first to use the recommended dose of fertilizers. Second, whatever dose we are applying, we should know that we will do the fertilizer practices to increase its efficiency. So the fertile practices we can do, like we should give irrigation timely. Third, we can do the tillage operation or other managed practice and other another management practices accordingly. Like if you are putting the fertilizer and we are just putting it randomly, it is dependent which fertilizers you are applying. You should have a complete knowledge of that fertilizer as well. That for certain fertilizer, like for the nitrogen, you cannot do the band placement like this. You should apply the split doses. The phosphorus you can apply the plant placement. So the knowledge of fertilizer also is very much important when we are doing when we need to maintain the soil nutrient deficiencies. So we should know that in what fertilizer, in what amount, and through what procedure should we applying, so that we can say this is the precision farming. So by doing the precision farming, we can maintain the soil nutrient status and help our soil to not to get deficient into the particular nutrient.
Okay. Next question. Are there any specific soil testing methods or technologies that you recommend for accurate and reliable results?
Actually, usually we say that you can go to the laboratories, but it is not feasible for everyone right now, right? So nowadays, the soil testing kit, it is very much popular, and we can see that it will give 90% accuracy. It is not giving the 100% accuracy for sure, because it is just giving you the result result at that time only. So the soil testing kit is very much. We can say that we are using soil testing kit nowadays, in which we can predict the soil nutrient status in a very less amount of time and without giving that much amount of cost. So yes, it is the emerging technology, and we are using it nowadays. So instead of this, we can go to the soil testing laboratories or give a sample to the soil test experts to know the nutrient status of particular our soil.
Okay. Can you provide guidance on how to interpret the results of soil test report and make informed decisions based on the findings?
For sure, ma'am. In my presentation also, I show you that there is always an interpretation chart of a particular nutrient. Like for the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, organic carbon, pH, EC, for every single thing that is present in our soil, there will be a interpretation chart. So through that interpretation chart, we can see that what is actually the nutrient should be into our soil. Right, for let it be for nitrogen, it will be around 250 to 560. So if the particular, after getting the result from the soil test, we will get to know that the nutrient status is between this. Then we can say that okay, the our soil is having the optimum amount of nitrogen. But what if it will giving less than 280? If it will getting less than 280, we will say that it is our soil is having low amount of nutrient. And if it will getting more than 560, then we'll get to know that it is having higher amount of nutrient. And this interpretation chart is already available in soil testing laboratories, and in that chart we can see that what is the current status of our soil. So once we will get to know that okay, our soil is having high amount of nutrient, low amount of nutrient, or in the optimum range of the nutrient, we will get to know that if it is in the high amount, whatever fertilizer we are providing, or whatever will be the recommended dose of the fertilizer that should need to apply, that need to be decreased. Similarly, if it will be come in the lower, or we can say lower available status, then we should need to increase the dose of our soil. And so this is how we can interpret our results. So after interpreting the result, it is very much important that we should know that after interpreting the result, what could be the recommended dose of the fertilizer we are giving to our soil. And for the knowing the recommended dose, there we should need to calculate firstly that what is the available nutrient, what is the amount for what crop we are taking it. Why? Because it is also depend upon the crop which we are growing. So some crops taking the high amount of nutrients. Why? Because their uptake is very high. Some crop will take low amount of nutrients. So what are the cropping system, or what crop we are growing on a particular land? It is also very much important to know the recommended dose of fertilizer that we are applying. So before so be, sorry so after knowing the status or for the soil nutrients, now our second step is to know that after the second step is to interpret our results. And to interpret our results, we need to see the interpretation chart, and for every single nutrient that is there, that is there, that is present into our soil, there is an interpretation chart that is already prepared by the scientists. So after putting our value into the interpretation chart, we'll get to know, and according to that only we are applying the fertilizers to our soil.
Okay.
Mm.
So we have the last question. How does soil testing contribute to optimizing fertilizer applications and nutrient management on my farm?
Okay. So in all my presentations, actually, I'm saying the same thing, that the soil testing is the very much, or we can say the foremost step for the fertilizer recommendation. Whenever I'm saying that we are applying the fertilizer into our soil, we're just not applying the fertilizers. We are not just only applying the nutrients along with the fertilizer. Those nutrients actually increasing or decreasing the nutrient status of other nutrients into the soil. Let it be, if we are providing the maximum amount of phosphorus to our soil, this phosphorus has an antagonistic effect with the zinc. So as the phosphorus concentration will increase, the zinc concentration will decrease. So hence the zinc concentration will decrease. For sure, our crop will not going to give the better result. Why? Because there will be the lack of micronutrients into the soil. So we should know that if we are increasing certain amount of nutrient, its influence will definitely be on certain another nutrient. Therefore, we should maintain its fertility. So to maintain that thing, we are applying the fertilizers into the soil. So only by knowing the particular nutrient status, we will get to know that how much is the deficiency of our soil, so that how much more nutrient I need to put into the soil. So if we are applying that much amount of nutrient only that is needed to your crop or your land, that will going to sustain your soil. So once your sustainability will be maintained, only then whenever you are growing another crop, it will lead to increase the productivity of that crop as well. And also the soil structure will not disturb, the soil biota will not disturb. Hence every time when you are growing the crop, the mineralization of your particular nutrients that is in the unavailable form also increase, and hence the nutrient use efficiency of that fertilizer is also increased. So our main motive of doing the soil testing is to increase the nutrient use efficiency of a fertilizer. Why? Because whenever we are applying the fertilizer without knowing the current status or the particular status of our soil nutrient, we are just applying the amount of fertilizer. Its nutrient use efficiency will not increase, or sometimes it will be decreased, because our soil will only going to acquire some amount of nutrients only. So it is very important that after knowing the soil test, it will increase its fertilizer use efficiency as well as the nutrient use efficiency of our soil. And this could be only possible if we are doing the soil testing, if we'll get to know what is the current amount of nutrient status of our soil, because only that then we can apply the optimum amount of fertilizers into our soil, and hence we will lead to increase its productivity, and also maintain our soil health and its productivity.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay, Ms. Deepanjali, and I don't see any more questions from our participants. So now we
Okay,
have
okay,
come to
ma'am.
end of question round. On
Okay, ma'am.
behalf of agricultureinformation.com, we like to thank you for the detailed presentation and answering all the questions in depth. And we
Mm.
also like to thank all the participants for joining this meeting. The meeting will now be closed.
Oh, thank you so much, ma'am, for joining
You're
the
most
meeting,
welcome. Thank you.
and let me be a part of this.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.